You owe us for living here, my brother's wife smirked, arms crossed like a queen in her borrowed palace. Then my own mother handed me a mop and said, "Be grateful you're not homeless." My name is Elena Parker. And from wherever you're watching this, tell me in comments, have you ever been treated like an intruder in the house you grew up in? I was. Every corner of that house still held echoes of my childhood laughter, my drawings on the fridge, my birthday balloons taped to the banister. But now it smelled like bleach and entitlement. They gave my old room to their toddler. I got the attic, with a mattress that sagged like a broken back. No heat. No closet. Just insulation flakes that rained down when the wind blew too hard. And every morning before I'd even had coffee, my sister-in-law would knock on the attic door, not to greet me, to hand me a list. Dishes. Floors. Guest bathroom. Laundry. Oh, and don't forget the baseboards. You missed them yesterday. She smiled while saying it, like I was the unpaid help. My mother, the woman who used to braid my hair and kiss my bruises? She looked at me like a stain she couldn't scrub out. "You've been jobless for 5 months, Elena," she said over dinner once, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You think we enjoy supporting you? Supporting me? I paid for that entire kitchen remodel 2 years ago. Gave them the down payment when their business almost folded. I was the emergency fund. But I didn't argue. Not then. I just washed the dishes in silence, breathing through the ache. Smelling the roast chicken I wasn't invited to eat. Listening to my brother laugh as his wife called me the help. I slept that night with my fists clenched. The next morning I was gone. No note. No text. Just gone. But what I left behind in the family safe. That made my mom scream. And made my brother kneel. Let me tell you something about silence. It's louder when it follows betrayal. I left at 4:12 a.m. Took nothing but a duffel bag, a USB drive, and the one thing they never imagined I'd touch. The combination to the family safe. I didn't need their furniture. I didn't want their pity plates or threadbare towels. What I needed was the leverage they buried beneath my father's will. You see, when Dad died 2 years ago, the estate was split in 4 parts. My share was to be held in trust, since I was still finishing grad school. Guess who got control over that trust? My mother, who decided I didn't need money when I had a roof. She used my share to renovate the backyard, buy a hot tub, even paid off my brother's second car. When I asked about it once, her answer chilled me. "You'll understand when you have a family of your own. This is ours now." But I'm not stupid. Before Dad passed, he showed me something. A folder, a password, and a clause. If at any point they violated fiduciary duties, the trust would dissolve. And everything would revert back to me. That USB I took? It had every transaction. Every Venmo receipt. Every check my mother forged in my name. They thought I was weak. Thought they'd broken me. What they didn't know. I'd been documenting everything for 9 months. I didn't just vanish. I went straight to a lawyer. And the day after I left, my attorney served them with formal notice. Misuse of estate funds. Fraud. Breach of trust. They had 14 days to respond before the court froze every account tied to Dad's estate. 14 days to realize I wasn't the help. I was the rightful heir. And I wasn't playing nice anymore. When my brother opened the safe to find my final gift. Not money. Not jewelry. But a notarized affidavit, stamped, signed, and ready for court. My mother screamed so loud the neighbors came running. But me. I was already 600 miles away. Smiling at a sunrise my family would never see again. The first call came at 9:03 a.m. Blocked number. Straight to voicemail. Then came the text. From Mom. From my brother. Even from his wife. The one who made me scrub her toilets. "We need to talk. This is all a misunderstanding. You're being dramatic, Elena." Dramatic? They stole from me. Used me. Humiliated me. And now that the money was slipping through their fingers, suddenly I was a person again? Oh. I spent the morning at a cafe in Charleston, sipping coffee and watching boats drift on the harbor. Funny, freedom tastes a lot like burnt espresso and quiet. I had rented a small apartment. Nothing fancy. But the lease was in my name, the key in my hand, and the space filled with my air. I didn't owe anyone here. Meanwhile, back home the panic was setting in. My attorney forwarded me a copy of their response, and it reeked of desperation. They admitted to using portions of the trust. Claimed it was for family benefit. Said I lived rent-free for 5 months and had no complaints. But I had emails, texts, photos of receipts with my name on loans I never signed. And I wasn't alone. My dad's old accountant, Mr. Ross, contacted me out of the blue. Turns out he'd kept backups of everything. He said, "Your father didn't trust many people, but he always said you had his spine." His spine. Not my mother. Not my brother. Me. So I leaned in. We filed a motion to accelerate the case. And with the documentation I had, the judge approved it. A hearing was set. 2 weeks. And the cherry on top? Every asset under the trust, including the house they lived in, was now under court supervision. Frozen. Blocked. In limbo. Which meant my brother, his wife, their child. They couldn't sell. Couldn't refinance. Couldn't even touch the savings account they'd been dipping into like a bottomless buffet. They thought I was broke. But I was about to bankrupt their lies. I didn't want revenge. I wanted truth carved into the record forever. And I wanted to watch their little empire burn without a match. The night before the hearing, I got another voicemail. My mother's voice cracked as she spoke. "Elena, we just want to make things right. Your brother is worried sick. The baby hasn't stopped crying. Can't we talk? You don't have to do this." I played it twice. Then deleted it. Because I did have to do this. I wasn't just fighting for stolen money. I was fighting for the version of me they tried to erase. The daughter who put family first. The sister who gave her last paycheck to cover their mortgage. The woman they turned into a ghost in her own home. They wanted to skip the consequences. I wanted them to feel them. The courtroom was small. Fluorescent lights. Stained carpet. But to me it felt like a cathedral. My attorney laid it all out. Forgery. Misappropriation. Financial abuse. Then came the exhibits. Photos. Ledgers. Bank transfers from my trust to buy my sister-in-law's SUV. Thousands used to cover business losses that mysteriously funded a vacation to Hawaii. The judge read every line. My mother sat pale, lips tight. My brother fidgeted. His wife whispered furiously, like she could unmake the truth by talking fast enough. Then it was my turn. I stood, looked my mother right in the eyes, and said calm but cold, "I didn't leave because I was weak. I left because if I stayed I'd forget I was worthy of respect. You didn't raise a fool. You raised a fighter." Silence. Even the court reporter stopped typing for a second. When the judge ruled, it was swift. All assets misused from my trust? To be repaid in full with interest. Control of the trust? Transferred to me immediately. And the house? Liquidated to settle the balance. That backyard hot tub? Gone. The renovated kitchen? Gone. My brother turned white. My mother whispered, "Where will we go?" And I thought, where did you expect me to go when you handed me a mop instead of love? But I said nothing. Just walked out the way I walked in. Upright. Alone. And finally free. 2 weeks after the judgment, their world began to crack. The bank called in the mortgage early. Utilities shut off one by one. Their credit cards? Frozen. Their friends? Silent. Funny how fast people disappear when you lose your money and your mask. I didn't stalk their downfall. I didn't have to. Small towns carry news faster than wildfire. Mrs. Ramirez from the corner store emailed me. "Saw your mom packing boxes with tears down her face. Never thought I'd say this, but good for you, Mija." The final blow came when the real estate agent listed the house. I went to the open house. I stood in the same living room where they called me a burden. Where my brother's wife once tossed my dinner in the trash and said, "If you want food, work for it." The agent didn't know who I was. She smiled and said, "The previous owners defaulted." Real shame. I smiled back. Not really. By the next week they were gone. No forwarding address. No more voicemails. Just dust. But here's the thing. Winning doesn't mean healing. I sat alone in my new place some nights, numb. Even justice feels hollow when the people you love chose cruelty. I kept wondering. Was I too harsh? Did I become what they feared, cold, calculating, distant? I got a letter. Typed. No return address. I didn't know. I thought you were just mooching. Mom lied to all of us. I'm sorry. My younger cousin. She had lived with us for one summer years ago. She was there when I was treated like a ghost. She said my mother told the whole family I was unstable, lazy, refused to get a job. Told them I had anger issues and stole from Dad. They didn't just gaslight me. They rewrote me. But that letter, it reminded me I wasn't crazy. I was just outnumbered. No, I wasn't anymore. Fall came. The leaves burned gold and crimson. I was still learning how to breathe without apology. Then came the knock. It was a Tuesday. Early morning. I hadn't even put on coffee. I opened the door. And there he was. My brother. Thin. Ashen. No designer belt. No polished smirk. Just a man who'd lost everything. Knew it. Elena, he croaked, eyes rimmed red. I didn't come to fight. I didn't say a word. But I didn't shut the door either. He looked down like a child caught stealing. We're living in a motel. Lisa left with the baby. Took the car. Mom cries every night. I almost asked but I waited. Then came the part one never thought I'd hear. His voice cracked. You were right. About everything. I was selfish. I believed Mom because it was easier. But you didn't deserve any of it. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out something small. A gold locket. Dad's. The one he always wore on his chain. The one that went missing the day of his funeral. I took this, my brother admitted. Pawned it. Bought dinner that night and told everyone it was company money. I bought it back. And now it's yours. I stared at that locket. Tarnished. Bent at the corner. Felt like it held all the air in the world. I took it. But not for him. For me. To remember. He stepped back like he knew that was all he could give. Then he whispered. Mom's been saying you broke her heart. But the truth is, she broke you first. And none of us noticed. I nodded once. Not in forgiveness. Not yet. But in finality. He left. And I shut the door. Then I opened the locket. Inside was a photo. Me at 7 years old on Dad's shoulders, beaming. Suddenly, I didn't feel alone. Because that little girl, she never asked to fight this hard. But she survived. No. She was rising. The holidays came. The kind that used to mean chaos and casseroles and Mom yelling about presentation. No. Silence. Peace. A real tree I picked out alone. No one told me it wasn't symmetrical enough. I lit the candles by myself. Wrapped presents for people who never asked what I could give them. Only what I needed. And then another letter arrived. Handwritten. Shaky cursive. Moms. I know you don't want to hear from me. But I owe you something more than silence. I almost tossed it. But my fingers wouldn't let go. I thought control was love. That if I kept you small I could protect you. I didn't realize I was shrinking you to fit my own regrets. What followed wasn't a list of excuses. It was a list of memories. My spelling bee trophy in 4th grade. The night I stayed up with her during her surgery recovery. The time I gave up a scholarship interview to drive her to a doctor's appointment. She wrote. You were never ungrateful. I just refused to see your love because it didn't look like mine. And when you disappeared I realized the truth. You weren't the problem. I was. I cried. Not because I forgave her, not fully. But because for the first time in my life, my mother had written me back into the story. Not as a burden. Not as a mistake. But as a daughter. A week later she showed up. No makeup. No jewelry. No entourage. She didn't ask to come in. Just handed me a small box. Inside. The safe key. The one you found was decoy, she said, voice shaking. The real one's here. And what's inside? It's yours. Always was. She turned and walked away. I didn't follow. Not yet. I opened the box an hour later. Inside the safe. Dad's journals. My birth certificate. A bond in my name worth $120,000. Untouched. Hidden. Like me. They tried to bury me in shame. But what they buried was treasure. No. I was reclaiming it. 1 page, $1, 1 breath at a time. The first thing I did with the money wasn't what you'd expect. No new car. No revenge shopping spree. No Instagram post. I bought land. Just a patch outside the city. Quiet, overlooking hills where the sky never felt heavy. Then I built a little house. Not big. Not flashy. But mine. I planted fruit trees in the yard. Peaches. Figs. Because I remembered something my dad once told me while peeling a mango. If they ever strip everything from you, plant. It means you still believe in tomorrow. That land became my tomorrow. I didn't tell anyone. Not even my cousin. Because for the first time my peace didn't need witnesses. It just needed me. But life as always circles back. One Sunday morning as I watered the fig tree, a car pulled up the dirt path. It was my brother. He got out slowly. Jeans t-shirt, no showy watch. Just calluses on his hands and eyes that looked tired. But softer. He held a small velvet bag. I came to return what's left, he said. Inside were 2 gold rings. My parents' wedding bands. They asked me to hold them, he explained. But I think they always belonged to you. I didn't understand. Then he added, Mom's moving to assisted living. Early dementia. She asked for you last week. By name. My breath caught. It was like hearing a ghost say your name after decades of silence. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I invited him to sit under the fig tree. We didn't talk much. Just watched the leaves sway. Before he left, he turned to me and said, I used to think you vanished that night to hurt us. Now I know, you left to save yourself. And maybe somehow you saved the rest of us too. He walked back to his car. But before he drove away, he looked at the rings again and whispered, I never got to say it, but I'm proud of you. Tears came hot and unexpected. Because no apology ever comes when you expect it. It shows up quietly like spring after a cruel winter. Later that evening, I drove to the assisted living center. She was sitting by the window. Hair white, frail frame wrapped in a faded shawl. The woman who once made me scrub floors with a bruised back now stared blankly at the sunset, mouthing words I couldn't hear. I stepped into the room. She turned her head. Elena. One word. But it was full. Of memory. Of ache. Of something close to love. I sat beside her. She took my hand, her skin paper thin. You look like him, she whispered. I smiled. I hope so. We didn't talk about the past. We didn't need to. Because here's the thing about closure. It doesn't always come as a confrontation. Sometimes it comes as a fig tree in bloom. Or a safe finally opened. Or a mother's trembling hand holding yours after all the storms have passed. I left the wedding rings on her nightstand. And as I walked back to my car, I looked up at the stars. The same sky I stared at as a girl on the porch, dreaming of escape. Now it watched over me, not in pity but in quiet celebration. Because I made it out. Because I came back on my own terms. And because in the end, I didn't just vanish. I rose.